If it's easy as fishing, you could be a musician. If you can make sounds loud or mellow, get a second-hand guitar. Chances are you'll go far if you get in with the right bunch of fellows. Ooh, people see you having fun just lying in the sun. You tell them that you like it this way. It's the work that we avoid. We're all self-employed and we love to work at nothing all day. Hold up, wait a minute. Work at nothing? If you're self-employed, you better work. This is Lisa from LisaRobbinYoung.com, and you are watching another live episode of Creative Freedom, your dose of education and inspiration to help creative entrepreneurs like you build a noble empire and live an inspired life without selling your soul. This is all about owning your dreams. And this week, we're talking about the difference between a business and an expensive hobby or a jobby. There's actually Carol Roth, and I'll talk about her in a second. Carol Roth talks about the difference between a hobby and a jobby and a business. And so we're going to kind of go down that rabbit hole today. When I started back in the olden days of the interwebs, I worked primarily with direct sellers. So, and some of you watching may actually have come with me all these years and started with me when I was working with direct sellers. If so, hi, how are you? Nice to have you here. And one of the things that we talked about a lot was, are you building a real business? Are you growing it like a real business? Or do you have an expensive hobby going on? And I forgot to turn on my other camera. I got to make sure I do that. Otherwise, we don't have a backup. There, now we have our backup going. So do you have a business or an expensive hobby? Today, I'm going to run through, I think, 6 different scenarios for you, because you may be, oh, I'm making money. It's a business. Maybe not. Or I'm not making any money. I don't have a business. You might be fooling yourself. So we're going to run through some scenarios today, and I'm going to give you some ideas to check off against what you're currently doing and what you're currently thinking about to give you some clarity as to whether or not what you're doing as a creative entrepreneur is really a business or an expensive hobby. Now, every business has 2 goals. 2 singular goals. You have to serve your clients, whomever they are, and you have to make a profit, okay? It doesn't have to be a big profit, but you have to have more money coming in than going out at some point. If you don't have those 2 things going on for you, you don't have a business. Now, you could not be making money in the short term and still have a business. So I'm going to give you some other criteria, but if you don't have a business and clients that you serve, if you don't have clients that you serve and you don't have a profit, you're not going to be in business for very long. Okay, a profit can be a penny, but you've got to have more coming in than going out. You can be an unprofitable business for a short period of time, but you can't stay unprofitable and keep a business afloat. So here are some things that you want to check off against those 2 things. Yes, I'm doing those things. Okay, so let's see if you have a hobby or if you're moving away from hobby toward jobby or business. First, are you doing this for fun? Is this something that you love to do and you just do it whenever you feel like it? You get up early and you're inspired, or you're a night owl and you work late and you just do it when the wind takes you. You know, that Pocahontas approach. I go where the wind takes me, and I'm just going to do it when I do it, however I do it. That's probably a hobby. For me, I loved doing community theater when I lived back in Michigan. And occasionally we would get a stipend for performing. I did not rely on my stipend from community theater to pay my bills or keep my nose above water financially. I did it because I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being with the people. I enjoyed being able to share and tell stories and be on stage, because girl, love a spotlight. Otherwise I wouldn't be doing this, right? So that was a hobby for me. Karaoke, get me on a stage, put a microphone in my hand, play some music, I will start singing. You don't have to pay me, typically, if it's karaoke especially. I'm like, I'll just sing. That's a hobby. I'm not doing it. Could I make money doing it? Sure, I can enter a karaoke competition. I get a stipend when I perform in community theater. Just because you're bringing in revenue or bringing in income from a thing doesn't mean it's a business. In fact, if you're not bringing in enough to pay yourself a living wage, I would hazard a guess that it's either a hobby or a jobby. The other piece to that is, here in the United States, you have to report hobby income, any money that you make. But if it's a hobby, you don't get to report any of the losses. You don't get to take any deductions against any of the money that you invested into your hobby. But if you're making money on it, you better be sure Uncle Sam wants his cut. Got to report that income. So just because you're making money doesn't mean it's a business. Okay? Do you treat it like a business? Is it its own entity? Does it have a business name that's registered with your municipality? Does it have its own standalone bank accounts? Are you paying taxes? Are you reporting that income separate from any other household income that you're getting? Or is it all just in one big bucket and it's like Lisa's money? That's not a business if you're not segregating those things appropriately. And in some instances, commingling funds can be illegal. I am no tax professional. I am not an attorney. Make sure you check with that stuff in your locality. But it's important that you understand that if you're not treating the business like its own entity, it's your child, it's another adult, it's another person, it's another entity. If you're not treating it and respecting it in that way, this isn't a business. This is just a thing you do to bring in some cash. And part of that means, does it succeed or fail on its own? You can plow a lot of money into a business concept and never actually have it be a business. In fact, I saw this a lot with direct sellers. Direct sellers would stock up on inventory. In fact, I'll post a link on the resources page to a video that I shot a few moons ago when I had short hair and was probably 10 years younger, that I shot for direct sellers about buying all of this end of season inventory, stocking up on at a discount, and not having a strategic plan in place for how are you going to liquidate, how are you going to sell all this inventory you just picked up? Well, I got a great deal. That's fabulous. But if you can't sell it, why'd you buy it? But it was a great deal. Yeah, that's not running a business. That's an expensive hobby. You're plowing money into something that's not generating a return on your investment. Okay? When you make a purchase for your business, I don't care if you're taking a class, going to a conference, ordering raw materials, sending greeting cards to your client. I don't care. Anytime you spend money in your business, you need to understand why you're spending it and what the purpose behind it is and what is the plan to recoup that money. I'm plowing several $1,000s into a new website, not because I expect the website's going to give me several $1,000s back the day we launch it, but because I know that over the course of the years that I intend to have this website in this current incarnation, I will more than make my money back on this new design that we're putting together. Okay? So it's worth it to me to make the investment because I have a clear plan of how I'm going to get that money back. Otherwise, you're playing Russian roulette. It's a slot machine. You're putting money in and you're hoping. Maybe this is the big one. No. We're going to do a whole episode about don't spend money on a website that you don't need to be spending money on. All right. But this isn't just about websites. This is about any time you're investing money or investing, let's put it in quotation marks, because a lot of times you're just spending money, right? It's not really an investment. Hi, Lori. So good to have you here. So a lot of times we're putting money in with no plan on how we're going to get it back out. If that's the case, you don't have business. You've got an expensive hobby, especially if that money you're putting in isn't bringing anything back out. You have to start thinking differently about the choices you're making in regards to the money that you're putting into something. Now, there are times when it makes sense to put money in up front and it's going to take a few years or months or whatever to get the money back out, like in a website upgrade. Okay? But if you're constantly putting money out, putting it out, hoping on the long game, with no real plan, then you're fooling yourself. And I've been that person. I did that for several years. I just was like, oh, I need this. Let's put money in. And I didn't have the money or a plan to get that money back out. And then I was like, put the brakes on. Because I was spending a lot more than I was making. I had an expensive hobby. I had great tax deductions, sort of. Okay? And that's not how you want, that's not a healthy business. So if you're looking to build a real business, you have to start treating it like a real business. It is its own entity. It has its own income goals. It has its own expense goals. You have budgets for those things. And I know for chaotics, to talk about the numbers and to talk about budgets and to talk about, profits and losses, that can be frustrating or overwhelming, okay? It's still necessary. So if it's not something you feel comfortable doing, then you've got to bring on a support person that you trust or get some software that you trust to do that stuff for you. You can't just stick your head in the sand and pretend like those things don't matter, because they do. Income and expenses are the lifeblood of your business. Profit is the lifeblood of your business, or you don't have a business for very long, right? So separate accounts, make sure you've got a budget, make sure you're reporting and it's all registered and all of that. And at the end of the day, does this business succeed or fail on its own? Does it stand on its own 2 feet? One of the things that I really appreciate about my ex-husband, even though it infuriated me at the time, was that he was very clear that if I was going to run a business, that business had to take care of itself. We were not going to pump family money, family financial money, all his income and everything else to prop up my business over and over and over again. It either made money or it didn't. And that was on me. That was on my company. That was not him going to support everything that I was trying to get this thing up off the ground. No. He was very clear he was not going to do that. It frustrated me at first, but then I recognized what a gift that was to not have him as a crutch to kind of keep propping up something that wasn't going to work. What makes it work? When you have a clear, defined audience that you know you're here to serve, and you serve those people. That's how you make money happen. That's how business is done. If you're like, oh, I serve everybody, you don't have a business. You have to be clear on who your people are. Even if that's a wide swath, you still have to be clear on that. Okay, so let's say you've got, you're treating it like a business, it's registered, you've got separate accounts, you're doing all those things. Do I have a business? Maybe, but you might actually have a jobby, okay? It's not a hobby, it's a hobby that's kind of turned into a jobby. It's not really a business, even though it's registered like a business. So let's talk about what a jobby might be. Jobby is actually a phrase that was coined by Carol Roth. I think she wrote Business Unplugged. She hangs out on MSNBC, I think, and she's an investment banker person, and she's really into the entrepreneurial world. So she talks about a jobby, which is basically a hobby disguised as a business. Okay, so it's bringing in money, and you're reporting it, and you've got taxes and all that stuff, and you're doing all the stuff that you should as a business, but still not bringing in enough money to pay yourself a living wage. When you work it all out at the end of the year, yeah, you've brought in some income, maybe 10 grand, maybe 12 grand, but it's not enough to live on. It's not minimum wage for all the effort that you're putting into it. You're not making a living wage. It's a jobby. You've made a job for yourself, and it pays you some money, and it maybe covers the gaps in your life. It's a secondary source of income. It's a part-time job that you're working full-time, and you're responsible for everything. Hi, Sarah. That's my cousin. Nice to see you. And so you've got these things that are going on for you, and you might be bringing in some money, but that's not a business, even though you've done some of the things right. Carol says one of the other things that's very important about the distinction between a jobby and a business is you got to have an end game. You got to know what the point is of what you're doing. What's the goal? And it doesn't have to be some lofty, I want to change the world and make $20 bajillion kind of a goal. But it has to be a meaningful goal. And I talk about dumb goals, goals that are doable, understandable, meaningful, and believable. A lot of people talk about SMART goals. I've learned that the time-bound piece sometimes works against you, especially if you're a chaotic or a fusion type who are handling multiple things at once. But the reality is, when you're dealing with the business piece, you got to know where this thing is going. Why are you serving the people that you're serving? What is the point? For me, for example, I serve creative entrepreneurs because I see two things. One, I see a world that needs the gifts that these creatives have, that they've been sitting on their whole entire life because they've been told they need to go get a real job. And maybe they've excelled at that real job, but it's sucking their soul away when the world really needs the gift that only they can bring to the world in the way that they do it. They're an artist, they're a performer, they're an author, a speaker, they're a thought leader, they're a master craftsman. Okay? They're great at what they do, but they're doing something else because they've been told that's the path that's going to give them stability and safety, instead of follow the path that's going to not only bring you greater rewards in the long haul, but help the world. So there's that thing. And then the other piece that I see is there are these creative entrepreneurs who are like, I turned the volume down on that and I'm trying to go this way and it's not working. I'm hitting the walls because I don't understand business concepts. I don't understand what it really takes to make this a healthy, thriving, profitable, sustainable business. Instead, I've got a jobby. I've created a job for myself. I'm a musician who gets paid, $50 at the end of the night because I got a 4-piece band and they paid us $200 to come do this gig, right? You got a jobby. It's not a business yet. It could be. There are some things that you could change to make that happen. Okay, but right now, it's not a business. It's a jobby. So this also comes to another piece that I like to talk about, and I've talked about this in my accountability club in the last couple of months, the difference between the employee mindset and the business owner mindset, okay? When you're an employee, you show up to get your job done, okay? I think the comparison that I used was Star Trek, okay? So in Star Trek, you've got your red shirts, and invariably one of them dies in an episode, right? So you got your red shirts. They're the employees. These people are very skilled and gifted at what they do, okay? But they're not in charge of the ship. They're not the captain. They're not the one making sure that everybody's taken care of. They show up, they do their good day's work, and hopefully by the end of the episode, they're still alive. They're the employee. And that's the employee mindset. I show up, I do what I'm really good at, and hopefully at the end of the day, I've still got enough to live on. That's not business owner thinking. Business owner thinking, business owner mindset is going to be bigger, especially, in direct selling. Okay, I want to let's go back in the Wayback Machine to when I was first working online, working with direct sellers. You are one consultant in a company of millions of other consultants who are selling the exact same thing as you out of the exact same catalog for the exact same price. The only thing that makes you distinctive from every other consultant on the field is you and what you bring to the table. And if you show up and go, I sell XYZ product, come buy from me. You're an employee. But if you show up and you go, I'm a skincare professional and I help people have healthier, more radiant, glowing skin, and I happen to recommend XYZ product, different story altogether. Now you've distinguished yourself from the pack, right? You started to position yourself differently. As a musician, am I showing up and I'm just here for the gig and I get my paycheck and I go home? Or are you actively looking for ways to not only improve your craft, because musicians are really good at let's practice and let's get better at what we do, but are you also looking for ways to connect to other people who can elevate you in the marketplace? Are you talking to producers? Are you talking to engineers? Are you talking to other people ancillary to the market, promoters, venue hosts, venue owners? Are you talking and making those kinds of relationships so that when there's an opportunity, they think of you and go, you know what? Sally is an amazing performer and we've got an opening on Tuesday night. Why don't we reach out to her? I just talked to her the other day. Bingo, you got a spot that maybe nobody else could have had. Okay? That's part of your job as the business owner. You look for the bigger opportunities, the places where you can grow that are in alignment with your goals and the things that are meaningful to you. You're not just showing up, punching the time clock, and getting out of Dodge. Okay? That's the difference between the employee mindset and the business owner mindset. So a couple other things to look at if it's a jobby versus a real business. Are you the bottleneck? Are you the bottleneck in the business? I.e., does everything have to pass through your hands and everything has to have your seal of approval on it? Is like nothing can happen unless you've seen it, touched it, and worked on it? When your business is brand new, often you're still in jobby state. And the answer is yes. I do everything. I wear all the hats. So yes, it's all got to go through me. But as your business continues to grow and you've brought on a team member or two, or you've got some part-time help, contract employees, maybe a VA who's come in to help with some things, if you can't empower them to do the work and take your hands off of it, you've got a jobby because it's your job to make sure they're doing their job right. Now you're just a manager, right? You're an executive jobby. And that's not going to help you either because you're still not making the living wage without a whole lot of hustle, right? So if you're always hustling, you can be bringing in lots of money, hustle all the time, never sleeping, gotta go. You don't have a business. You probably got a job because you're still bottlenecking everything. Another piece that can be a bottleneck is being the knowledge holder. If you hold all of the knowledge yourself, then you're the one that everything's got to pass through. If you know everything, like this is how we handle customer complaints, this is how we handle emails, this is how we handle it, and it's all in here, and you don't have systems and processes documented for your people, for your team, for your support to come and handle it for you, you're the bottleneck. You've created a job for yourself where you've become the encyclopedia of the business. You've become the human process document for your business. You gotta let that go. You've got to have people that you trust to be able to pick up the slack as your business grows. Now, again, when you are first starting out, you will be wearing all the hats, pretty typical, right? As a creative entrepreneur, because we tend to fall into these things because we're good at what we do, and then we find out we can make money doing it, right? We've created a job. Now we have to pull ourselves out of jobby mode, out of the employee mindset, and start looking at the bigger picture of what is this business here for? What are we really here to do? Now, Carol Roth, the person who coined this jobby phrase, she says that, and I quote, goal setting, making tangible, definable goals is critical to get you on the path to success. Now, your goals for your business and my goals for my business do not have to be the same. It's the fact that you have them, that you're driving towards something, and this business is the vehicle with which you are driving towards it, okay? Whatever your goal is, that's the key here, right? So what are some ways that we can do that? Well, we've talked about this in a couple of different episodes, right? So dream blazing is one of the things that I use with my clients to help them get the bigger picture on what really matters over the course of the next 12 months. And then those become the defining criteria through which all of their other choices and options as they relate to their business are made. You know, my number one goal for this year was to make sure that I was positioned in a way in my business that I could take the bulk of the summer off and spend time at the pool with my kid because he was here for the summer. So I had to restructure my business, make some different plans and changes around how I did my coaching with my clients in order to have the bandwidth to be able to go to the pool almost every morning, every week with my kid. I don't start work until 11:30 or noon most days because morning time is for him. I was able to make those changes and shape my business around me instead of me having to spackle my life into the cracks of what this jobby or business was going to do for me, right? So that's a distinction between business and jobby. Those goals mean something. So dream blazing is one of the ways I do that. I also have my accountability club. I have my partners in crime that I can go to and go, here's what I'm working on. What are you working on? How can we help hold each other accountable? I have an accountability partner, and then I run a group for creative entrepreneurs who are trying to stay accountable to the things that they say are important to them and may not have the support that they need otherwise to make that happen, right? And we set goals and we move towards those goals. And that's how it all gets done, right? So goals, important thing. It's also something we're going to talk about at Creative Freedom Live in October. 8 seats left. I'm so excited. And that's why you can't just say, oh, I just do this because, it's this thing I do. Okay, that's not a business. It's a hobby. And if it makes money, it's a jobby. And if you're not paying yourself a living wage, it's a really crappy jobby because you could go work anywhere and make minimum wage, right? So thinking about that. Budgeting. Budgeting is another piece because a lot of times we will spend money in the name of our business with no clear plan on how we're going to get that money back. No clear plan on what it's really going to go for. And then at the end of the year, we sit down and we look at our taxes and we go, oh my, where'd all the money go? Or, wow, I didn't realize I spent that much money. But if you create a budget for yourself at the beginning of the year, I'm going to spend this much on advertising, this much on other marketing activities, this much on my website, this much on client outreach. I'm going to spend this much on owner salary. I'm going to spend this much on, owner salary. What? Yeah, you got to pay yourself. Got to pay yourself. And that needs to be a line item in your business because if it was anybody else's business, corporate America, the owner gets a salary, the CEO gets paid. So should you. And if you're not line iteming that out, even if it's just on paper because you got a new business, then you're not taking the steps to run the business, again, like a real business. You got to know your numbers and you got to know your positioning for the audience that you're trying to reach. If you don't know your audience, If you don't have a clear idea of who you're trying to reach and you're just doing this thing because you love to do it, you don't have, I'm sorry, it's not a business. You're just doing it for the fun of it. And that's great, but it's not a business, and you need to be clear about that. I'm laying down the hard truths here. Maybe I'm wrong, and if you think I'm wrong, feel free to comment. I'm here to have a discourse with you. I'd love to have a conversation on it, but that's been my experience. I've been an entrepreneur for over 20 years. I've been a coach for more than 10, and time again, I see people who bring in money and have not set up any of the systems. And like, I have a business, and I'm like, no, you don't. But we can set it up so that it becomes a business. We can take the good that you're already doing and create some structures and support so that it really is a business and it becomes something that can sustain. We can do that. So let's look at some scenarios, because I can hear people going, well, what do you mean? Give me some examples, right? So scenario one is you're doing something you love. Okay, you love it. Maybe you're a graphic designer and you love, maybe it's your day job even, and you love doing it. And so you got a friend who's like, hey, could you make me a logo? And you're like, sure. And you make a logo, and they pay you $50 for the logo or whatever. And it only took you an hour. So you're like, hey, I'm making $50 an hour. So I'm making money, right? And you're not really paying attention to the money stuff. Like, well, I'll report it on my taxes because that's what I have to do. But I'm not keeping track of, wow, this time I spent an hour, but next time, I spent like 2.5 hours and I had to go back and make changes, and I still only charged them $50. And you're not paying attention to that money stuff? No, you don't have a business. You have a hobby that makes money, which is great. Just make sure you report that to Uncle Sam, because Uncle Sam's gonna want that money. That's the way that goes, right? So that's a hobby. Okay. Scenario number two, you're doing some of what you love. Okay. Maybe you run a band, right? And your band plays gigs 3 or 4 nights a week, and you're bringing in some decent money, but you've got all of this infrastructure, and you're the one that does all the calling and all of the setting up of the gigs, and you're the one that interfaces with everybody, and you're the face of the band, and you handle all the money stuff and make sure that everybody gets paid, and you're doing all the necessary stuff to keep the business afloat, but you're not counting any of your time to do that, and you're getting $50 just like they're getting $50 because it's a 4-piece band, you get $200 a show. You're not even making minimum wage for all the other stuff that you're doing. You don't have a business. You got a jobby. Like I said, little straight fingers, it was a jobby. You got a jobby because you haven't made enough money to compensate yourself for your time. If you had to hire somebody else to make those phone calls and stuff, you'd have to pay them, and you're not paying you. You've created a job for yourself doing stuff you don't even like because it's necessary. And you set it up like a business and you pay your band member employees, but you're not making any money. Not a job. Not a job. Don't do it. Just say no. So scenario three, you set up the legal structure. You've dotted all your I's, crossed all your T's, crossed all your I's, dotted all your, you're like, let's go. Let's make this a going concern. We're going to do this. And you're doing what you love. And you've got some inconsistent income, okay? But you're running it like a business. You are running it like a business, and sometimes you make money, and sometimes you don't. You've got an unprofitable business, okay? You got a business because you're doing all the things that you're supposed to do to have a business, but you're not making any profit. Maybe even paying yourself a living wage when you've got money coming in, when you've got work, but you're doing this, and it's more this than this. It's an unprofitable business, okay? So scenario 4, you're making money, you're making money, like the money's coming in. You might even be approaching 6 figures. And I have a post on my blog about why 6 figures is important for creatives. It does the math on all of that. Anyways, the link will be on the resource page. But when I work with creatives, that's the goal I'm driving them towards. I want you to get to where you're making a comfortable 6-figure income or close to that, whatever the equivalent is for your area, right? I want you to have that level of comfort because it gives you the freedom to make decisions and you don't have this huge unwieldy business in the process, right? So you're making bank, okay? Maybe you're making close to 6 figures, maybe a little more than 6 figures, but you are working like a dog. You are hustling all the time. You never get a break. Your kids forgot what you look like. Like your friends are like, who's she? I don't like, is she still alive? I heard she got like disappeared or something. Like what happened, right? You also don't have any support to keep this thing going, or you don't have a growth plan, whether that's grow a lot or just maintain where you're at. You don't have a plan. You don't have a clear plan. You don't have these defined goals. You don't have a business.
You have an executive jobby. You're making the money of an executive, but you basically worked yourself into a job. Okay? And don't get me wrong, if that's what you want, that's fine, but you need to be clear and realistic about what you're really dealing with. Okay? And that's the thing that I find time and again, people aren't realistic. They just call it a business and it's not. Okay? So scenario 5, this one and one more. Scenario 5, it's similar to scenario 4. You're making good money. You know, you're pushing 6 figures, maybe you're a little past 6 figures. You're doing what you love. You're loving it. You're loving it. And you got systems and you got support. And you got the team, you got the process made, but you're always on the hustle. You're always on what I call the hamster wheel of hustle. It's go, 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 go. Like you've got to keep doing this. You got to keep pressing the flesh. You got to keep being out there. You're like, you still don't have time for yourself, even though the money is there and the supports are there. You don't have a jobby. You're not an executive jobby. That's great, but you have this unsustainable business. You have an unsustainable business. And I say that because you can't stay on the hamster wheel forever. If you have to keep propping it up, you have to keep doing the work to hold it up and then you either haven't empowered your team properly, you're overspending in some area, or something else is amiss in the mix of your business that you can't take a break. You can't walk away. Maybe you're the bottleneck still. Okay? Like you have to be able to step away from that business and know that things are going to be okay for a time. Maybe not a long time. Depends on where you're at in the growth cycle of your business. But if you can't walk away even for a couple of days and know that things are going to be okay because your team is in control when you're making that kind of money, something's wrong. And you don't have a profitable, sustainable business. So what does profitable, sustainable business look like? That's scenario 6. I just kind of like spoilered it for you. But let me just give you an image in your mind, something you can hold on to. Okay? You have a healthy profit. Maybe it's 1%, maybe it's 5%, maybe it's 50%. Like you know what your profit goals are and you're hitting them consistently in a way that's healthy for you and the business. You're a healthy business owner. You have a healthy relationship with your business. You're not chained to it all the time. And you're not walking away like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Business, what business? Like I own something. I'm like, no, that's not healthy either. You know what's going on. You're actively involved. You're aware. But it doesn't run you. You run it. You're not an employee anymore. You're the business owner. Okay? You have a healthy team, whether that's a team of 1 who comes in part-time or a team of 20 or more. They're supporting you appropriately. They're empowered to make the decisions for their position that keeps the business running in a healthy, profitable, sustainable way. You're not having to helicopter patrol and make sure that everybody's doing what they need to do. You can trust these people to get their work done and do an exceptional job at it. Okay? And you've got a stable, practical growth plan, whether that's to do a lot of growth over the next few years or to just kind of maintain where you're at for the next few years. You've got a clear path. Right? You have a vision of what that's going to look like. And you've probably got some positive cash flow to go along with it because everything is doing what it needs to be doing, like a well-oiled machine. That, my friends, is a profitable, sustainable business. Look at that big old smile. Look at that big old smile. That's it. That's what the goal is if you're choosing to be a creative entrepreneur and run a real business. And that's the key. Next week, we're going to talk about whether or not you really are a creative entrepreneur. But if that's what you want to do, this is how it needs to happen. Now, there's still a whole lot of wiggle room in there to do it in a way that works for who you are and how you best show up in the world. You know, I have clients who come to me with chronic illnesses who can't work a 9-to-5. They can't work a traditional day job, and they have these gifts and they want to make money doing what they love because they can't do it any other way. And so we sit down and we work out a plan for growth that works for who they are. Some people move faster. Some people are riding the snail, okay? And it doesn't matter whether you're riding the snail or the rocket. What matters is, are you doing what works for you in your unique situation? And so if this is something that excites you and you'd really like to dig into this and have a plan for the next 12 months and know that you know what you're doing for all of 2018, then I invite you to come take one of the last 8 spots that we have remaining over at creativefreedomlive.com. It's October 12th through the 14th here in good old Nashville. We got 8 seats left because this is an intimate thing. It's like 10 people. I'm not, because we're going to work one-on-one. We're going to look at your plan. We're going to look at the next 12 months. We're going to be like, okay, this works for you. that probably is going to be a problem. How are you going to deal with that? How do we fix this? How do we course correct if you go off the rails? How do we make sure you have the support you need to grow in the way that you need to grow in order to own your dreams without selling your soul? That's the big piece here, because you can hustle, you can get on the hamster wheel. I can't tell you how many entrepreneurs I've met who are like, I busted my butt to hit 7 figures and now I've got adrenal fatigue, or now I'm in a depression, or now I'm, you got to be able to take care of yourself along the way. That's important. And so Creative Freedom Live is one way that you can do that. And I think that kind of brings us to the end of this episode. So if you liked this episode, and I hope you did, please, 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 if you want to be the first to see more episodes like this, then like it, share it, show that you care it, let everybody know how awesome this episode was. That would be really cool. Next week, we are going to talk about some more hard truths. We're going to talk about the 5 signs that you are or are not a creative entrepreneur, because not every creative is an entrepreneur, and that's okay, right? The first chapter of my new book is all entrepreneurs are creatives, but not all creatives are entrepreneurs. And there's a reason for that. And we covered a little bit of that today, but I'm going to go into the 5 signs next week so that you have real clarity on, yeah, I'm a creative entrepreneur. I'm not just a creative with a hobby. I'm doing something with a bigger picture here. And so until then, for more inspiring songs, stories, tools, and resources to help you build a noble empire, to own your dreams without selling your soul, come check me out over at lisarobbinyoung.com. And I will see you over there.